Hello everyone, Scottish Lad here and welcome back to Scottish Lad's Darts channel. In today's video I'm going to be doing a top 5 again, and this one wasn't picked by me. Some of it's probably true for my opinion, but this is based on a poll that I did on my YouTube community tab. There was over 70 votes on the poll and this was the results that came through from that poll. So without further ado, let's crack on with it. Coming in at number 5, it's not one I personally agree with. He should be a wee bit further up the list. But at number 5 we have Dennis the Menace Priestley, who won the World Championships in 1991 and 1994, beating Eric Bristow in 1991 and Phil Taylor in 1994. Obviously Dennis Priestley was a menace back in the day. He was probably up there with one of very few players that could beat Phil Taylor back in his prime. And obviously Eric Bristow in the 90s was his dartitis kind of time, but he still did really well to get to the finals against Dennis Priestley. Personally, I wouldn't rank Dennis Priestley at number 5, but you guys voted it, so that's your prerogative. But let's move on to number 4. Right guys, coming out at number 4 we have old stone-faced John Lowe, who was a world champion in 1979, obviously beating Leighton Rees back in 1979. He won it again in 1987, defeating Eric the Crafty Cockney Bristow, and again in 1993 defeating Alan Warner Little, the only player in darts history to have won the World Championships in 3 different decades. Obviously one of the greatest players of all time is John Lowe. Personally, I would have put him further down the list. I wouldn't have put him on number 4. He was also the first ever player to hit a televised 9-darter, which is obviously one of the most famous 9-darters you'll see. But that was number 4. Let's move on to number 3. Moving on, guys, we're at number 3. We have the one and only Jocky Wilson, who was certainly a character if you've seen the documentaries about him. He used to kick people in the shins, he used to fall off the stage, and it was a character, one of the very many characters of darts, but he was definitely the ultimate character of darts in my opinion. He won 2 World Championships, one in 1982, beating John Lowe 5-3, and again in 1989, defeating the one and only Eric Bristow. Obviously, as I said, Jocky was some character. I've seen the documentaries, I've seen the interviews and stuff, and is definitely what darts needed at the time, was a bit of kind of fun, a bit of character. A bit like Gerwyn Price just now. Obviously he isn't up there in character-wise as well as Jocky Wilson. That's just never going to happen in my opinion. But that was number 3, Jocky Wilson. Let's move on to the top 2. So coming in at number 2 we have... Hey guys, coming in at number 2 we have the one and only, the crafty Cockney, Eric Bristow, who won obviously 5 World Championships, and they were against Bobby George in 1980. Bobby George, obviously one of my favourite players. John Lowe in 1981. Dave Whitcomb in 1984. John Lowe again in 1985, and finally Dave Whitcomb in 1986. Obviously Eric Bristow was more than likely the best player in the 80s. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But Eric Bristow, obviously, he was the crafty Cockney. There's not much more you can say about him. He had mind games down to a T. He mentored Phil the Power Taylor, and we know how well Phil Taylor did. And at that point, he was just one of the best players in the world. Up there with, obviously, the likes of John Lowe, Jocky Wilson, those kind of players. But that was number 2, voted by you. Let's move on to number 1, and I'm pretty sure most people are going to guess this. But let's move on to number 1. Guys, we're at the legendary number 1. We are at the 16-time world champion, the 16th-time world match play champion, Phil the Power Taylor. And I'm pretty sure a load of you probably guessed this before it even came up. But Phil Taylor, without a doubt, is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He is, as I said, 16-time world champion, 16-time world match play champion, a whole load of major tournament winners, and the amount of ranking trophies, ranking stuff he's won is just unbelievable. Phil Taylor, the GOAT in my opinion, deserves to be at number 1 on anybody's top 5 list, and I don't care what you say, he is the greatest of all time. But I've done obviously a few of these top fives now. Let me know what you'd like to see as a top five list, and I will obviously have a think about it and maybe go on it. But my top five for the legendary darts players would have been, but very, very similar to this. I wouldn't have put Dennis Priestley fifth. I would have put him fourth. I would have probably put Jocky Wilson fifth. That sounds really bad, but in my opinion, Jocky Wilson would have been fifth. Then it would have been Dennis Priestley, John Lowe, Eric Bristow, Phil Taylor. So the list hasn't really changed much. All I would have really swapped was John Lowe and Priestley and stuff running about. But let me know your top five in the comment section. And while you're down there, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. We are now in December. I'm hoping to get 3,000 before January. So it's really appreciated if you smash that subscribe button. But thanks everybody for taking the time to watch this at night time, daytime, morning time, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe out there, and of course, keep on darting.